Hey guys, it's finally time for me to do another Copic tutorial. It's been a while. I have very little free time, but I managed to sneak an hour on my own without having to worry about kids, family, and work. So I thought it'd be a good time to do a bit of drawing. So what I'm going to do today is another Copic marker sketch on a sketch cover. So this is a Superman Unchained sketch cover. You can get these at local comic shops. I don't know if you can order them online or not. Inside is a normal comic, and on the outside is high quality paper that you can sketch on that's great for markers and pens. Now I'm not going to go through details about all the different marker types and the initial startup because I've already got that covered in my previous video. I'll try to include a link to it in this video. If I don't have the link, just look for my how to draw Batman with Copic markers. The first few minutes of that talks about all the different marker types and how you should set up your stuff, which markers to use, and overall process for before you begin. So I'm just going to dive right into the drawing. So I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do a Superman drawing here since it's a Superman Unchained comic. I'm going to probably try to do something kind of Jim Lee-ish just because he's, if you've seen my Instagram feed, you know that he's probably my favorite artist, so I try to emulate his work often. He is probably the premier artist in comics right now, so he's a great guy to try to imitate. So let me just get started. So I think I'm gonna go with like an angry-ish Superman, just because angry's more fun than happy. So let's get started. I might do something similar to my last Batman once. I think I'm gonna do a 3/4 head. So first off, I'm just gonna kind of sketch out the shape of his head. So I'm using a H pencil. You can see that. And it's nice because it's fairly faint and it should be easy to erase later. I'm being very careful not to press too hard. Let's see. So getting the overall oval shape of his head here. His shoulder. Yeah, I'm already thinking it's too small. So it's a good thing I used an H pencil. I'm going to just use my mechanical eraser. This is a Derwent mechanical eraser. The great thing about this is, as I covered in my previous video, it is very good for erasing without damaging the paper, which is important. Another reason why you don't want to use a very dark pencil or press too hard. Okay, all right, let's try that again. So I'm gonna try to go a bit bigger this time. Yeah, I think that's better. The oval shape here of his head. Now, this oval shape is what you should be aiming for when you're trying to draw somebody's head. So around the midline here is where the eyes fall. And in between here and here, right in the middle, is typically where the nose falls. Now, depending on the angle of the head, that changes a bit, but if it's straight on, that's what it is. I think I'm going to do him screaming, so I'm just going to figure out where his mouth is. So I have to actually bring his jaw down a bit more. If his mouth was closed, his jaw would be higher, but because his mouth is open here, this space in here, I had to bring this down. So that's why this space is bigger than it would normally be. And let's go for his shoulder here. Bring his neck here. Lots of nice little muscles and veins coming out of his neck when he's angry. This angry Superman is where it's at. All right, I guess S shield would be here. All right. Okay, so let me just get some more of the general shape here. So let's go for the nose. So the nose comes down here on a bit of an angle. Get the nostril here. So it's a 3/4, so you only see one nostril. Now, because he's angry, his eyebrow would be raised a bit here and then on a downward angle here. Lots of creases in his forehead. Now, I might do something with heat vision, so I'm going to be careful here so I don't want to put too many lines down because I'm going to have to erase them all. Okay. So that's that. Alright, time for the mouth. The mouths are definitely one of the trickier areas to draw. Make sure that when you draw these, you spend some time thinking about the teeth. I find that's probably the most important thing, especially when somebody's shouting or screaming or being kind of animated like that. You want to make sure you've got the teeth correct. So his middle tooth, so this will be the center of his face here, come down this line here, so that's where his teeth should be separated. So one tooth there, and then of course it's symmetrical on the other side, but because we're a 3/4 angle, this tooth on the left will appear a bit smaller. That's all you see from that tooth here. Then this canine, it's a little bit of a sharper point. Other tooth. I'm going to draw these in, but when I actually go to ink this, I'm not going to ink in the full tooth because it looks kind of weird if you draw each tooth individually. So what you typically would do is you just get the general shapes and then you kind of leave space in between. Because if you ink the whole thing, it just looks weird. Because if you look at a person's tooth from far away, his teeth, they kind of all blend together. They don't appear as individual teeth. So get some more of his teeth here. So these are the trickier ones here when it starts to curve around. Go underneath. Okay, I think that's all right. I'm not going to be too picky because this is when I get it inked, I'll try to adjust during the inking process. I don't like to draw it all perfect in pencil and then just redraw it again in ink. That's too much work. I'm way too lazy. So what I do is I draw it kind of rough in pencil, make sure the shapes are correct and proportion is correct, and then I'll put the ink in. And as I've mentioned before, really, really important that the proportioning is right. If your proportions are off, it doesn't matter how good the drawing is or how well you inked it or how nice your shading is, it won't look right. So you really want to make sure that you've nailed the proportions before you put any ink down at all. Even if it means you got to erase the whole thing. It is much better because once you start inking, it's very difficult to correct something like that. It'll drive you nuts, so just bite the bullet and redraw it if you have to. I know I've done that many times myself, so as I speak here, I need to make the chin a bit bigger. That's one area I noted the proportion is off. It is Superman after all. He's got a big jaw. Can't give him a little girly jaw. All right. So now I gotta figure his eyes. One eye over here. Because I'm going to be giving him heat vision, I'm not going to bother drawing in his pupils or irises or anything like that. Probably make these all glowing. So I just want to get the shape of the eye. Okay. Alright, so this will be coming down there. Let's get now if I find I have a stretch of time where I'm just doing a lot of drawing, not talking, I might speed up the video. Not sure yet, just for those parts. Because I don't want you to get bored. But let me know in the comments if I do that, if you don't like it and you prefer full length the whole way through. And then I will stop speeding things up. Gotta get the S curl down now. Okay. That'll do. Actually, I also kind of struggle with the curl because you want to make it look natural, not look like it does. Actually, if you look at you watch the old Christopher Reeve movies, which I absolutely love, except for the fourth one and maybe the third one, but the first two anyways, fantastic. There's that curl, it looks completely unnatural. It's like his hair's all slicked back and this one curl is kind of just slicked down. You know, they did a lot of work just to keep it there. So one of the things I love with the way Jim Lee draws him, and I think John Byrne as well, another great comic artist from years ago, he would always kind of make all the, it wouldn't just be one curl, it'd be all the hairs around it would kind of curl, and just the one curl would kind of fall down. And I think that is pretty important if you want it to look like real hair, as opposed to this tacked on curl. All right, so I'm going to do this pretty shadowy, so I'm not going to put too many details here. I'm just going to try to figure out where the shadows fall. I see a lot of artists, what they do is they put the little X's where they want things to be black. I do that too sometimes, but if you're not careful, you end up messing things up because you'll miss an X or you'll color in a spot that wasn't supposed to be black, and then you're kind of hosed. All right. So I think this is all going to be black. Okay. Get some cross-hatching going here. All right. Now I'm going to take a quick look before I go any further here. So make sure this eye is correct. I think it's okay. I think this mouth might need some work. Okay. Yeah, this side definitely is too big. I need to bring it in a bit here. All right. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So this heat vision is going to be kind of interesting. I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I think I'll try to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out where the heat vision will extend to. All right, what I'll do is I think I'll just keep it inside his eye, some yellow, maybe some glow, and then maybe just lighten areas around the eye. I don't think I'm going to do like a bunch of crap coming out of his eyes. It's just too hard to do it right anyways. I end up looking stupid if it's not done correctly. All right, so here, so there's his neck. Okay. I'm kind of wishing I'd move this whole head over a bit so I get some of his cape, but at this point, because my time is limited, I'm going to have to just keep it at this, otherwise I would actually start over again. But wife and kids are going to be home soon, and then it's going to get all noisy, and then my tutorial will be over, so I'll just have to keep going. Okay, so I think this is okay. So what I've got here is I've got a couple of these Copic multi-liners. I talked about these before. The great thing about these is they are, let me see if you can read this. Kind of, you can see that water and Copic proof. So what that means is they won't smudge when I color over them with other markers, which is a big deal because the vast majority of these multi-liners and things, such as I've got a lot of other multi-liners, such as I've got the Micron, I've got the Faber-Castell here. Faber-Castell, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But those ones smudge like crazy, so they're great markers, but not very good for with use to color on top of. The multi-liners, though, the multi-liners are great. They do not smudge at all. Although the blacks aren't as deep, so there is that trade-off. But for what I'm doing, I don't want it to smudge, so that's going to be my priority. All right, so this is the scary part. Start putting down the marker. So I'm going to take one last look, and I think I need to make some adjustments on the teeth here. I don't have enough curvature in this tooth. Okay, not maybe too much now. Okay, I'll fix that with the marker. Now, if I didn't have a camera sitting on top of me here, I'd probably pull this out and look at it closer from different angles. But because I'm trying to do this and record it at the same time, I'm kind of limited to the position my head can be in relative to the paper. So sometimes that causes some issues. I'll realize when I'm done later that I messed up something because I was looking at it from the wrong angle. All right. Okay. I turn just a little bit. Okay, let's actually let me get the 0.5 millimeter Copic. This is my favorite. If you only get one of these, I'd suggest this one. All right, let's get started. Eyebrow down. One thing you're doing eyebrows, don't just do a solid line. That looks never looks good. So try to make sure there's at least some hint of the hair that's in there. And then you can come back later and adjust accordingly. Right away I notice this part of his cheekbone's a bit too narrow, so I'm going to adjust it a bit with the marker. And hope that it's not screwed up. All right. This part is definitely the scariest. All right. Let's see. Okay, so hopefully that's all right. Let's get this other eyebrow down. Now you get a lot of emotion from the eyebrows, so don't make them an afterthought. Actually, make sure you think about them when you're drawing, because if you've got the eyebrow wrong, then the expression's all wrong. So this is, yikes, a bit rougher than I intended. That's okay. Clean that up as I go along. I just want to get the basic shape down first. Okay. because I'm going to have, I think, a bit of underlighting. I'm going to have shadows on top, and might not put some lines down that I'll put down later with actual shadows. We'll see how that turns out. Okay. I'm going to go to a finer marker for the teeth because I don't want very thick lines for the teeth. So I'm going to go down to, I think, a 0.2 if I've got it. A 0.3. Looking for my 0.2. I'm out of luck. Anyways, I'll just stick with the 0.3. Thought I had a 0.2. Actually, that's a 0.03. That's actually way too fine. Wow, didn't know I had one that small. All right, here's the 0.3. Okay. So as you can see, I'm trying not to put, I'm not putting a bunch of lines in between here. Do it as you get farther back, you can do a bit more because then you get the shadows of the actual mouth to deal with, so you get more detail. But at the front, where the light is, you don't want a whole bunch of separation between the teeth. It ends up looking like buck teeth or whatever. It does not look good. Okay, not perfect, but I will be putting a bit of shadow in there to also separate the teeth, so that should help. Okay, remember the bottom teeth are smaller than the top teeth. The shape is different, so don't draw them exactly the same. Alright. Yeah, these are not turning out the greatest. Okay, let's put this. Yeah, I'm wishing I had some teeth reference to look at. Definitely take advantage of reference. I actually don't have a mirror right here, but I actually do that often when I'm drawing. I'll actually use a mirror and use my own face as reference, just to get the basic shapes down. It's good for teeth too. Sometimes we overestimate or underestimate how much teeth we have. How many teeth we have, I should say. All right, let's. All right, I guess that's all right. I'll do. Yeah, so I'm not going to go crazy with the cross hatching till after I've got most of the color down. Then I'll figure out. I'll figure out at that point where I want to put down those lines. Okay. It's 4 o'clock where I live right now, and it's already starting to get a bit dark. So if it gets too dark, I'm going to have to stop this and restart later, because definitely the lighting here is not great. I'll just turn on the light above. That helps. Okay. All right, it appears that my overhead light is burnt out. Fantastic timing. All right, so I'm just gonna go back and adjust these eyes again, because I'm not, there's something about this eye that's bothering me. I don't want to put any ink down until I'm sure it's right. All right, I'm gonna erase it and redraw it. Definitely want to make sure your eyes are right. Messed up eyes will totally ruin the picture, the drawing. Man, I'm still not liking that. Actually, I guess that's okay. Once again, it's this weird angle I'm drawing from. Okay. I'm going to just leave it. Actually, I won't ink those eyes until later, until I feel better about it. So I'm just going to go back to inking the hair. So I've got to grab my 0.5, which I seem to, oh, there it is, that I misplaced. Now, when you're doing hair, you don't want to draw every individual strand. That takes forever, and unless you're, well, actually it'll look bad no matter what. So don't do that. Just kind of want to get the basic shapes. I can't say this is my favorite part. I'm not crazy about hair. But definitely with ink, actually, I find it much easier with pencil. So I draw this, it just, I get a lot of comments on my digital art from certain people commenting about how digital is cheating and it's not real, and it's, you know, those people are, I'm assuming most of them have actually tried it. So I gotta tell you, it's actually harder. I find it harder to draw digitally. Now you got shortcuts, so you can actually copy, you can do the symmetry, you can do these kind of cool little shortcuts. But when it comes to actually putting, you know, your lines down, nothing is more accurate than pencil. You know, marker's great too, but marker's kind of unforgiving. You make a mistake. Pencil, you got an eraser. And just the thing about pencil is you can vary your pressure, adjust the thickness. You have total control. You want to blend. You want to, you know, put different textures down. So I actually find pencil is, for me, is probably the thing that allows me to draw the best. I think my pencil work is my best work. I don't share a ton of it, mostly because actually I seem to get a lot more response and feedback and likes and views on digital stuff. So I do more of that for my Instagram. But if I was just going to be stranded on an island, I had one thing to draw with, it would definitely be a pencil. All right. This marker is too fine. I'll do a little bit more, but probably what I'll do for the hair maybe is I'll come back later and use a thicker marker like this one here. Just put in thick strokes, because using a 0.5 will take forever. Okay, let's go back to this. Get your shoulder in. All right, I'm going to adjust this Superman symbol again. Let's see, it's just as that way. Okay. Now, actually, this is I haven't even looked inside this comic, but I'm pretty sure it's a New 52 Superman, which I'm actually not a fan of. I hate the collar. I don't know why Jim Lee decided to add collars to everybody. I love Jim Lee's art. I'm not digging his choice with the collars, so I'm just pretty happy actually with the newer comics where I see how they've gotten rid of it. But if you actually open up this comic, look inside them, he'll have that collar, which I think looks just stupid. One of the things I always loved about Superman is the idea he wears, you know, it's kind of silly, I know, but he wears a costume underneath his clothing. You know, the whole iconic, you know, opening up his shirt to reveal the S. Now, how do you do that if you've got that giant collar underneath? That doesn't work at all. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to figure this out before I lay the line down. So I've got his neck here. I've got, because of the angle, it's a bit tricky. So I'm going to just draw, I guess his collar would go like this. But that's not his actual neck. His neck would actually be here. So maybe some stuff going on there. All right. Definitely like the look of all the neck muscles being all tense. It's really cool for showing intensity. Great for anger. Love it on the Hulk, actually, or Wolverine. When I draw them, I just go crazy with the neck muscles. So doing an angry Superman gives me a chance to do the same thing. All right, I'm just going to try to get the hair. Making that a bit too rough. All right, and this cape would be here. And this is why I kind of wish the head was down a bit. I'd be able to do a bit more with the cape, but that's okay. All right. Let's get some more stuff going on with his face here. I'll probably do a lot of cross-hatching on this later, but right now I'm a little bit nervous. But I want to get the basics down just so I know where to lay down the color. So there's always a bunch of lines going on here. All right, let's see. So put some shadows underneath. All right, let's get some stuff happening with his brow here. Definitely dig the furrowed brow. All right, I think I'm gonna probably speed up this next part. So let me just, I'm just gonna draw and not talk for a little bit. So this whole area here is going to be black. So I'm just trying to figure out what parts to do solid. It's always a bit, nerve-wracking at this stage, because once I fill in something completely black, there's no coming back. Oh, you know what? Still don't like this eye. I'm going to redraw it for the third time. Okay. Let me just definitely pretty chicken when it comes to laying down these blacks. I need to just get over that fear and just do it, because definitely adds a lot of really great contrast. You got a lot of these really dark black regions, but you want to make sure that they make sense. You got to think about the light source coming in. So I've got light coming from underneath. So this area behind this is going to be all dark, and light coming this way. And so wherever the black is, I'd like to do cross hatching to kind of blend it in. I don't want just this really stark black. Now the fact that I'm doing color too, I can work that into to kind of get it darker where it turns black. But the cross hatching is always something that I find that really helps. I just like the look of it. I think too about the cross hatching is it kind of gives the illusion sometimes of detail that's not there. So I can just do a bit of cross hatching, and then it kind of tricks your eye into seeing things that you didn't really draw. So you end up seeing like skin textures and hair textures and all this other great stuff that maybe wasn't really drawn intentionally, but you just got it by default, which is nice. Okay. come back in here and put a lot more detail in the hair later, but right now I'll just leave it at that. Because he is angry, screaming here. He's got a lot of these great opportunities to do a lot of different lines on his face, which I think look cool. Okay, this is going to be tricky. Okay, time to bite the bullet. I gotta do this eye. Alright, I think this side is okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put down the lines for this one. First time I've used this marker, and it's coming out more purple than red. Not the color I was expecting. Take a quick look and see if I used the wrong one. Nope. That's fine. That's okay. I'll deal with it. Alright, I think I just need to adjust the angle of this eye a bit. Alright. Okay. Do I have enough light? Okay, so I'm going to use my card now, try to figure out what color to start with. So, let's start off with an R00. Pinkish color. Normally I wouldn't go quite as pink as this, but because there's going to be a whole bunch of red around his eye, it's okay to go a bit more pink. Now, if I hadn't used multi-liners right now, I'd be getting like gray smudges everywhere where the black is, which would suck. Okay. And I just realized I made a big mistake. I forgot to erase my pencil. Oh man, so let's see if I can get some of this. So don't do that. Get rid of your pencil before you start coloring. Alright, so we'll be stuck with some pencil lines. Because once you color on top of the pencil, that's it. It's always there. You can't get rid of it. Oh, man, it looks like I need new batteries. Unbelievable. Alright. Not going to worry too much about the parts that are black. I'm going to cover with black because those parts. Alright, I'm out of luck. I'm going to have to go back to... Oh no, this eraser stinks. Alright. Try to hopefully get enough juice left in this battery just to get rid of the last little bit of pencil. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of most of it. There's one cheer on the nose. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna just pause for a second and try to find the light because it's getting too dark. Okay, so I just grabbed one of my drawing lights. I don't like using it so much because it actually creates shadows, but it was way too dark for me to keep drawing without some light source. Okay, so let's go back to my R00 now that I have actually erased everything. Now one of the great things about Copics is you get these really nice smooth blended color. You don't have like actual strokes that are visible. Dries very uniformly, which gives you a really nice kind of almost watercolory effect. Okay. There around the eyes. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to go next to my, this is a Studio Series marker. It's not as good as my Copic, but it's okay. Gets the job done, and it happens to be a color I want. So this is an I-35, which is that color there, which will be good for adding some depth here. This whole forehead dark. Now, once again, so this is called the Studio Series marker. It is probably about a quarter of the cost of a Copic, so it's definitely a good choice if you're on a budget, or if there's just certain colors you don't use very often but you want to have them. So for me, I've got a pretty large Copic collection now, but I definitely don't have all the colors I need, so I will definitely make use of any markers in my possession, as long as they're alcohol based, which this one is. So just make sure, don't mix your alcohol and water based markers together. You might end up with weird results. Alright. Just realized I did not color his neck, which is kind of important. So I'll go back down here and add some more R00 to his neck. Now, if you're looking to buy Copics, definitely do some research on what colors you need, because they are quite expensive, so you don't want to get a bunch of colors you don't need and then not have the colors that you do need. If anybody wants, let me know in the comments and I can maybe make this card available. At least you can see some of the ones that I've got. It might be helpful. Definitely, I know for the ones I have for skin seem to work pretty well together. So I gotta be too careful here because this is all gonna get colored black. I think this is probably a good color for his tongue as well. Get that in there. And one thing too is I notice these markers, they tend to dry a bit lighter, so don't be afraid to go a bit darker than you think you might need, because you'll probably actually end up with it lighter than you expected. Alright, so now, actually, let's get some of this nose here done too. Let's just do this whole part of space. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put some yellow. So this is a Y11 pale yellow to his eyes area here. Whoa, that came out way greener than I expected. Hopefully I can fix that with some 45 here. Alright. So Y02. Just going to lay this down on top. So I'm not taking my own advice, I just used a color without testing it first. Bad move. That's okay, I'll should be able to clean that up later. That's definitely not how I intend to leave it. Alright, I'm just going to leave that for now, and then I'll come back later. Alright, so let's go to color should I go to next? So I used the 135. R22. This part's always tricky. Okay. going with kind of a pinkish color. I'm finding most of my skin tones are kind of beigeish. I don't want to go too beige. So what I'll do is, where's my E93? E93. I'll use this to darken things up a bit. I might even bite the bullet and just put actual reds down at some point on his actual face. Get these little parts of his gums that are showing.
Okay.
Alright, I just bite the bullet. Go for broke. Here's the R22. This is pretty pink. Let's see how this looks. One thing to remember is Copics are blendable, so I'm going to be able to come back later and blend some of the stuff in. I'll show you that soon. Alright, so I'm going to go back to my R00 that I started with, and I can actually, wrong end, I can blend some of the stuff in. I think that there's a line that's too harsh. Blend it in with the colors around it. Putting a lot more black around these eyes because this is not exactly right. Okay, I'm going to put down a little bit of this E00 on his teeth because I don't want that to look totally white. So that would not look very accurate. Might even put a little bit of this R00 on his teeth as well, just to give a bit of contrast. You can see I'm just using, you know, a lighter color to separate the teeth out so you don't get this really white or black contrast going on, which just looks weird. Okay, so I think I need one more shade darker. I don't know if I've got a good color for that actually, so I'm gonna have to probably go with the shade I'm not crazy about. So let's go with the E13, which is a bit brownish. What I'll do is I'll put that down, and then I'll come back with a pink on top of it to kind of bring out the red. All right. Let's see. 93. I'm gonna try to soften up some of that brown. Blend this in a bit. If you can see that, hopefully that shows. This is all blended together now, so I don't have this like brown line just stuck on top of everything else. Alright, that's too light. I'm gonna blend this area. Circles here. Okay. Once again, sorry if I'm not talking too much, but I'm just trying to think as I draw here, or as I color, I should say. I'm gonna like make this whole area darker because it's way too light. Okay, now it's time to deal with these eyes. Alright, so I need to get a nice red R14. So I'm going to try to blend some red in here. So I need my R14, R22. Now, I used to have these all organized and then I dropped them and they made a big mess. Now they're all over the place. Alright, so here's an R14. I'm going to try to get some of this here. What I'll do is I'll put a bunch of red here, then I'll put a deeper red around the edges, and then I'll bring the yellow back and try to blend it all together. So here's my R29, which I guess is my best candidate. It's probably even deeper than I would like, but that's okay. Okay. Go back to my R14. I think I'll a bit less yellow showing. And now I'll come back in with my Y02 and try to blend this a bit more. I might come later with some white and put it on top. White jelly pen here. Some white in there. I might come back and put some red all around him to make it look like his veins are all popping out. Okay. Make sure I'm actually recording. Yep. There's many times where I thought I was recording. Come back later and find out I'm not. Alright, so this is my black here. So this is, these big markers are good for like laying down a whole bunch of black. Yeah, I may have to switch. This marker's not working so well. Alright, I'm going to switch to just a regular black. Standard black Copic here. I think this one needs a refill. Yeah, this definitely needs a refill. Let's see if we've got another black that's hopefully in better shape. Yeah, that's much better. Actually, you know what, before I get too far ahead of myself, I need to color these other ones in. Because once the black is done, it'll be very difficult to start adding the other colors. So at this point, just trying to think what color to make his hair here. So you got a lot of, because because there's so much pink and red, I think I need to stick with the same. So I'm going to put a bunch of pink down on his hair as a highlight. I'll come back later and add some other colors here. Put some more colors here. I'm looking for an R46 now. I've got an R89. I don't even know what that looks like. Yeah. Oh, that might be good. Just put a bit down. Down here too. It's gonna be too red. I'll save that for something else. Some R14 down. Now I'm just putting, this is gonna be mostly black later, so don't worry, I'm making his hair pink. Just trying to get the right highlights to match what's going on with the rest of his face. Putting some around his eye. Oh, got some bleeding going on there. Basically, I want to show that he's got all this intensity around his eyes. Some more red here. Okay. All right. Okay, let's get the black down. Trying to fix up the areas around the logo at the end. All right, I'm gonna speed this part up a bit. Okay, I'm gonna start putting a whole bunch more black down. I hear the front door opening, means my 4-year-old son's gonna come in running screaming, so I think the audio portion of this is about to end.
Okay, I lied. The audio is not ending. This audio is from the future. Well, 3 months into the future of this drawing anyways, I've come back and decided to actually record some audio on top of the drawing instead of just playing some YouTube music. Hopefully that's more beneficial. So I'll just keep on talking as if it was 3 months ago when I actually drew this. So at this point I'm just going ahead with filling in all the black spaces. I'm sticking with the Copic multi-liners because they are the one marker that I have that I can color over. So at this point I can keep adding black and then alternating that with color without any worry about smudging. If you don't have Copic multi-liners, then you got to be really careful for a step like this and make sure that your marker does not smudge. Most of them do. If you've got microns, which are great markers, they will smudge. So what you want to do then at that point is just make sure you're coloring black in an area that you're not going to go over with color later, or you're coloring black in an area that you might add color to in, I guess, in a day or two after it's completely dried. At that point, you're probably safe adding color on top of a micron, but not immediately after, in which case it'll smudge. So I'm just going ahead. I keep on building up layers of cross hatching, just for the dark spots. The nice thing too you can do with the cross hatching is it's a good way to blend in from the solid black, and you do that by just going ahead and just layering on just lines. So you don't want a really clean edge between black and non-black, unless you're going for a really sharp edge. But if it's a person's face, you might find that increased lines around the mouth, around the nose. But typically, if a person's faces are more contoured than that, you don't have these really sharp edges. So by putting in the solid blacks and coming back in later with the Copic, I can try to soften that edge a bit and make it look, more. Should I say less of a sharp difference, just to help kind of blend things in. Okay, so at this point, I am going to pick up my marker again, put it down. All right, so now I'm coming back in now with some color. So I'm using just some red markers. So as you can see, I kind of alternate between different types of markers. And actually, I'm using a black marker here. Okay, this is what happens when you record your audio later. So I guess at this point I've decided that these areas that I'm coloring in are areas I'm not going to go back with color. So it's safe to add a black. I think it's actually a very dark gray. But in any case, you'll notice that I do alternate back and forth between different types of markers. Definitely Copic markers by far are the best. I highly recommend them. In fact, those are the only markers I currently buy. I would not buy any other marker type. I still receive other markers now and then as gifts, or I've got stuff from before, so I'll use them since I've got them. But when time comes to actually purchase, I always go for the Copic. Even if it costs a bit more, I think it's worth the difference. So at this point I'm putting in some really faint lines with a very fine Copic multi-liner. So I don't want solid blacks. I'm using, I think, a 0.01. It's a very fine line. That's why you can probably barely see it, but it's enough hopefully to give it a little bit of texture. So by adding the finer lines to the thicker lines from before, I can get more of a graduated look from black to light. If you only have one multi-liner, only one fine marker, that's fine too. You can vary how hard you press. Just you want to practice a bit on a piece of paper before you put it onto your art. But by adjusting the pressure, you can adjust the thickness of the line. That being said, it's probably worth investing in a 4-pack of these fine markers. Generally, they go from 0.01 to a 0.5 or so, the few in between, and having that variation definitely helps. Basically now just looking for the areas that I want to add a little bit of shadow to, but at the same time not make it too dark. And back and forth. Now, it's easy to overdo this, and I might have already overdone it already, but at this point it's worth taking a chance and just doing the work. So here you see I changed the angle of the line a little bit, so I'll cross hatch in one direction and then alternate in the other. And that helps build a bit of variety, and it also helps mask some of the errors by making them look more intentional. So just, it's pretty difficult to cross-hatch all in the exact same directions. It's good to alternate, especially if you want to build something that, some contour or some shape. So if you want to, like, for example, show a curve, you want the cross-hatching to slightly alternate angle to help show the curve. So here again, I'm still trying to soften the... by the way, that was just my 4-year-old son's hand coming into play there. I had to push it out of the way. But in any case, here I'm just trying to soften the edges of some of these lines by building up with the fine marker. Just putting some shadows in around the mouth. This is always the scary part, is when you try to crosshatch on the nose. Some artists are really good at it, not me, but I've seen other artists, they put a few lines on top of the nose and it always looks perfect. But when I do it, it's always scary, because if you do it wrong, it really messes things up. So in this case, not so crazy with how it turned out, but I think I'll try to work that in, fix it up a little bit going forward. Working away, adding some vertical lines to the horizontal cross strokes, just to help separate. Adding in some red for his cape. Just some straight up red Copic. Same for the symbol. Great thing about Copic is it blends really well. So as you can see, as I'm layering these lines down, I get very little stroke work actually showing. Most other markers don't do this, so this is like a huge benefit. So you can get these nice solid areas of color that don't have a lot of lines showing up. Most markers that I've tried don't have that same performance. That's probably the number one benefit of Copic, is just that nice, consistent ability to spread color across a large area and have it be very clean. I'm sure there's other markers that can do that, but just not from the ones that I've tried. Definitely Copic has been the best. So one more reason for me to stick with them. Just working in all the different colors in the face here. So I've got a few different skin tone markers, and I just basically go back and forth between them. What you can do is you can bring in the lighter marker to help blend in the darker color. So you put a darker color down, and then you bring the lighter color back that you used originally, and you color over that darker area to blend it in with the lighter color. So in this case, I'm actually going a bit darker, and I have a tendency to go too light, so I keep on putting darker and darker colors. I need to be a little braver in my color selection and pick those dark colors right up front, but sometimes it's a bit scary to go straight to the dark color, because it feels such a stark contrast against the white paper. But later on you realize, oh, I should have just went with the darker color, because you can always build that contrast in later by using even darker colors now. So I'm doing it a bit in reverse. If I was to draw this again, I would have started off with the darker color. So I think I started off with an R000. Copic's there. I think I'll probably skip that one entirely. Just go straight to something a bit darker. Just going to clean up some of the edges now. I like to come in and do the thicker line work later on, because that allows me to kind of adjust. So if the coloring isn't quite perfect, I can adjust the line thickness kind of to mask some of the problems. So if there's a bit of bleed somewhere, just I can deal with that by simply thickening the line work around it. And then also try to vary the thickness of the lines too, not have them all be the same. Otherwise, the image comes out looking very flat. So back to a darker red, and you'll see me doing a lot of this. I keep going darker. Should have went darker in the beginning. So I'm trying now to kind of show like veins. Some kind of veins kind of popping in around where his eyes are. He's generating up all that energy to blast out that heat vision. So adding a lot of creases around the brow, veins, these type of things help add a lot of emotion to the drawing, and add a lot of tension to it. So I did record the audio for this a long time ago at the beginning, so I'm not 100% sure if I mentioned or not. This is based on Jim Lee style Superman. So yeah, this whole angry expression. Now, Jim Lee's great at doing a very angry Superman. So, something you didn't really see a lot of, Japan 20 years ago, but now a lot of angry Superman with red eyes. It looks really cool. Although, yeah, that's part of the reason why we got the movie we got. So, I actually prefer my Superman happier, but for this drawing I went with the angry one anyways. So why not? At this point I'm like coloring in some shadows. So this isn't, I'm not using a solid black, I'm using like a, I think it's an N9. It's like a dark gray. Basically the dark grays in the Copic markers you have, sorry, it wasn't an N9, it was a W9. You have W grays, N grays, and C grays. And so you get 3 full sets of grayscale. They go from very light to very dark. The C's are for cool, so they're more of a blue color. The N is for neutral, so they have no color. And then the W's, those are for warm. So you have a little bit of a reddish tint to it. So sometimes when I'm trying to build up shadow on something that's pinkish red, I'll use the W's. And then if I'm trying to build up shadow on something that's blue, I'll use the C's. Now, if I have the actual blues or reds in the right darkness, I'll use those instead. But there's a lot of markers out there, so I've only got a fraction of all the colors that are available, so I have to rely on blending other colors to achieve the same look. So something to keep in mind, you don't need a full set of Copic markers. You just want the basic colors, and then even a decent set of grays, in the warm and the cool, you can use those. Those will help you shade a lot. And also, if you've got you can, for example, if you got a yellow and a blue, you can create different shades of green. So you may not need all the greens. So definitely try to cover the basics first, and then you can practice with blending. And then you might find that you can get away with less markers because they are fairly pricey, and I definitely wouldn't recommend somebody go and spend hundreds of dollars on them right away without trying them out first. So there you can see, fortunately the picture of the image is cut off. I actually used a very light pink to blend on the yellow to get a bit of almost an orangish shadow there. I could have used an orange marker, but I don't have one that color. So here's a good example of blue-gray that I'm using. So this isn't a straight blue. It's actually one of the C gray markers. I'm not sure which number this is. I think it's like a C4. But yeah, so it puts down a bluish gray. If it was by itself on a paper, it would just look gray. But as soon as you put it next to other shades, the blue starts to show. So at this point, I'm still planning to blend stuff together. That's why I've left it a little bit streaky. So notice I'm putting some pink now on top of the blue, and that's just because I want to get I want the image, but just like I've got in the hair there, I want kind of a red color to kind of signify, fire and light and heat. So I'm going ahead with a bunch of warm colors on top of his clothing, on his hair, on his face. Here you see I'm just trying to blend the colors in. So I've gone back with the same pink color, and I've used it to blend in the darker pink with the blue up top to get rid of all the streaks. Now the gray looks like it was running a bit low, so it's a little more streaky than usual. If I spent maybe a little more time on it, I might have been able to get a smoother graduation of color. So here's a yellow Copic. So I'm going to be building up some yellows, oranges, and red around them, to show all the fire and heat all around it. So I really love these bright colors you can get with these markers. And if you don't have Copics, don't feel bad. In this case, I'm using a much cheaper marker here, and it's still they're still pretty good. Some of them are out there, so although I've said many times I think Copics are the best. I guess if you're looking at markers, if you can afford it, get the Copics. If you can almost afford it, just pay the extra and get the Copics. But if you don't have the cash, then you can pick up one of these other ones here I talked about earlier in this video. I go into them in a lot more detail in my other previous tutorial, so maybe go watch that one so I don't have to repeat everything again here and bore you all. So it's in the How to Draw Batman tutorial. So the first few minutes of that is just talking about markers. I definitely recommend just watching that if you want some tips on markers. But the one thing I would add is either buy a really cheap set or spend the extra and buy the Copic. I wouldn't get the in-betweens. So if a Copic cost $5 and that one the Studio Series cost $1.50 and the Prismacolor is like $3.50, well, either get the Studio Series for $1.50 or spend the $5 for the Copic. It's most of the mid-range markers, ones that are a little bit less than Copic, actually, they're substantially, or I guess they're significantly less or lower quality. I don't know, personally, I found in the Copics. And at the same time, most of them aren't refillable. So the Copics, if you use them a lot, once you refill them, I think they actually become fairly cheap. But in any case, I'd rather have 10 Copic markers than, say, 20 mid-range markers. But then by the same token, if I could have 10 Copics or 100 of the cheaper ones, I'd probably take the 100 just so I had all the colors covered. And that is an extreme example. Okay, so I'm just going to add in some orange and yellow, brown here. I'm just trying to kind of create that kind of comic booky, radioactive, Kirby-esque kind of fire. This doesn't. It's stuff you find on Apocalypse or something, one of those comics. Get some variation in color here. Unfortunately, the colors in this video aren't nearly as vibrant as the actual real comic cover. So I'll post a picture of that at the end of the video so you can see what the real colors are. So this is a little bit desaturated. I'm actually filming with an iPhone just above, so it's not maybe the greatest setup. So as you can see now, I finally brought up the microns. I think the microns are actually, for straight black work, I think they're the best. So if I was going to do an image that had no color, I wouldn't use the Copic multilines. I'd use these microns. But because of the color and the smudging, I'm saving them for the end. So that's why right now I'm thinking, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do much more in the way of coloring. I can come in with the microns and get that really nice black. Because you'll notice that when the microns go down, they're darker than the Copics. So, they're still a fantastic marker set to have, and I definitely continue to use them as my finishing markers, but sometimes it's a little risky because I'll think I'm done, and then all of a sudden I realize I'm not done. And it's like, oh, shouldn't use those microns. Here. All right, close. As you can see, a bit more color. This is where I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should use those microns. I definitely, like I mentioned earlier, don't be afraid to go dark. Because I have to keep, if I had the courage to go dark right from the beginning, this would have been half the time. But as you build up colors and start to fill up the page with color, those areas you thought were dark end up not really being that dark. So, in this case, I'm rebuilding the same areas over and over again. So this point I'm putting a very warm, one of the light warm grays onto the teeth, using for shadows. Things like teeth, nobody's teeth are perfectly white. I guess Superman's are, so I'll leave them mostly white. But for the shadows, you want to maybe have a tiny bit of color. So you want to make sure you don't want to use a blue-gray on teeth. It's anything that's biological, we don't have that bluish color. So use the warm gray. Okay, so I guess that is it. I think I'm about done here. All right, let's see. Is there anything else that needs to be done? All right, just a little more coloring on the face. Once again, going darker. I'll tell you, it's still not dark enough. That's okay. It's as dark as it'll get. So a little more red, a little more cleanup. And even as I'm looking at this now, months later, it's like, man, I should have gone even darker. Definitely. If I was to do this again, I would have just laid down a bunch of thick regions of dark color and then kind of tried to blend those into lighter, just to minimize the work. And that is a wrap. Thank you very much for watching if you made it this far, and I really appreciate any likes, subscriptions, and shares. So if you did enjoy this tutorial, if you found it useful, please let me know, and I'll be happy to try to make some more. All right, guys, have a great day.